Well, it's the beginning of another week. Good evening. Welcome. This is Ghana Tonight. We're live from a news about Desawe Kanda, also live on TV3 Ghana on Facebook and on DSTV channel 279. We're all across the world on 3news.com. We're live on 3 FM 92.7. I am Alfred Ocansey. Tonight, floods are striking more often and with the Greater Accra region also in focus. Greater force, leaving homes submerged, lives disrupted, and communities scrambling to recover. But what's being done and what more can be done to reduce the dangers before the disaster hits again? That's the conversation we're having tonight. Good news for commuters across the country as the public transport fares go down in a few days, according to the GPRTU. But what's behind the decision and how do they intend to implement this said 15% reduction in transport fares? Stay with us. We have a conversation with the GPRTU later on the show. Also tonight here, former president and the late Jerry John Rawlings has been honored by the government and people of Burkina Faso, naming a street after him. We'll delve into that matter. Indeed, his two children have been expressing their joy and what this means to them. Stay with us. We have this together with more here on Ghana Tonight. As always, you are an integral part of the conversation. Let's hear from you. The hashtag we're using is Ghana Tonight on Facebook and on X. Let's get talking. Let's settle for Ghana Briefs.
The Court of Appeal in Koforidua has restrained former Member of Parliament for Hohoe, John Peter Amewu, from presenting himself as a former legislator and also ordered Parliament to suspend any entitlements due him. This follows an appeal by residents of the Central Kofi, Atbafu, Lipe, and Lolobi Sao against an earlier High Court ruling that dismissed your election petition on jurisdictional grounds. Embattled CEO of defunct Men's Gold, Nana Apia Mensah, also known as Nam1, says he will escalate his case following the Court of Appeal dismissal of his application to halt his trial at the High Court. Nam1 has also filed an appeal against the High Court's decision, which dismissed his submission of no case application and ordered him to open his defense.
It doesn't end here. I mean, we still have the Supreme Court. So we just exercise all our rights, you know, enshrined under the Constitution, the Republic, this beautiful republic. So I'll confer with my lawyers and then whatever as they so advise, we'll proceed.
The minority in Parliament has asked the Energy and Green Transitions Minister John Jenapo to stop what they describe as fear-mongering and focus on addressing the challenges in the energy sector. At a media briefing in Parliament, the ranking member of the Energy Committee, George Kwame Abuaje, said Dumso is gradually rearing its head again and that should not be entertained.
Minister's recent claim that Ghana has only 2.6 days of fuel left was not just baseless, but economically damaging. Such remarks create an atmosphere of uncertainty and instability, which is detrimental to investor confidence. We acknowledge the financial challenges in the sector, but leadership is about solutions, not excuses. The minister must stop the fear-mongering and focus on fixing fuel supply issues for IPPs.
The Deputy Director of National Disaster Management Organization, NADMO, Ahmed Rufai Bolas, has called for a demolition exercise in certain areas of Accra to improve drainage and mitigate flooding. This comes after Sunday's heavy rainfall severely affected residents in some suburbs and highlighted the poor state of the drainage systems.
Yesterday, when our men came to the fold, they couldn't even identify whether there was even a slab up here. The whole place was full, covered with water. It got to a time when we needed to even bring a boat to this place. So we are advising and suggesting to the assembly that some demolition needs to be done within this community for people to enjoy their livelihood. We will do all our assessment, go and sit down on the drawing board, then we see what to do.
The Ghana Private Road Transport Union, GPRTU, has announced a 15% reduction in transport fares. The new fares take effect from Saturday, May 24th, 2025. This decision follows the recent sustained appreciation of the Ghana cedi against major foreign currencies. Public Relations Officer of the GPRTU, Abbas Imoro, made this known to the media on May 19th, 2025.
After a marathon meeting with the Transport Ministry, we finally decided to reduce lorry fares by 15%, but effective from coming Saturday. We considered so many things. Resetting of Ghana, this is our contribution of resetting Ghana. We are not waiting till the normal ingredients that we use before preparing for reduction or increment.
Well, as more news on 3news.com. Make some time and visit 3news.com. This is Ghana Tonight. As always, proudly brought to you by Flamingo Paint, Simply Superior, and also Sasso Insecticide Spray and Coil, Kum Tum Tum Preko. Coming up next, floods striking more often and with greater force. This has become a perennial affair. Every year we have to talk about this. Living homes submerged, lives disrupted, and communities scrambling to recover, just stay alive. But what's being done and what more can be done to reduce the dangers that we're faced with on a yearly basis? Now, we've been across most parts of the Greater Accra region hit by the floods as a result of the over 5 hours of rain yesterday. Started around 2:30 thereabout in some parts of the Greater Accra region. A number of places disrupted and lives that left scrambling to stay alive and afloat. As a matter of fact, what we do know is that the Deputy Director of the National Disaster Management Organization, NADMO, Ahmed Rufai Bolas, has also called for demolition exercise in certain areas of Accra to improve drainage and mitigate the flooding. There's a reason why. Because yesterday's heavy rainfall severely affected residents in suburbs and highlighted this poor state of the drainage system in this country, or at least for the Greater Accra region. We do know this. On a yearly basis, we talk about the factors that lead to flooding in this country: poor drains, indiscriminate disposal of refuse. We know all of this. Drains are choked most of the time. Drains are small, has to be expanded. We've pumped in money. World Bank has funded projects in this Greater Accra region to deal with flooding over the years. And I'm going to show that to you. But every year we have to talk about flooding in the Greater Accra region. And this situation dates as far back as the 1950s. I'm going to show you a newspaper publication as well, as far back as the 1950s, talking about flooding in Accra. So what has to be done differently? Something must give, but what is it? That's a conversation we're having tonight. But this is the Deputy Director of NADMO earlier today, speaking to my colleague on this latest flooding situation in the Greater Accra region. Take a look.
Yesterday, when our men came to the fold, they couldn't even identify whether there was even a slab up here. The whole place was full, covered with water. It got to a time when we needed to even bring a boat to this place. So we are advising and suggesting to the assembly that some demolition needs to be done within this community for people to enjoy their livelihood. We will do all our assessment, go and sit down on a drawing board, then we see what to do. For relief items, if they are supposed to be given, definitely we'll give it out.
So that's the not most perspective. They said they're still going round the capital to assess the extent of the impact, and then they'll put together a comprehensive report for us all to know the extent of damage or devastation caused by this flooding yesterday and then throughout the most part of the night. But we also found out that a missing 4-year-old girl has left a family in agony at Nanakrom. This is in the Adenta municipality. The heavy downpour on Sunday displaced residents, with some losing everything, all their belongings, and struggling to find shelter as we speak. My colleague Christian Yale was in the area. He spoke to the missing girl's mother to ascertain exactly what happened and to tell that harrowing story. But let's hear from the residents in that area telling us exactly what they've been through over the period. Take a look.
What has happened, this issue that we are all trying to solve, there's somebody, one particular person creating it after the breach. You know, 2014, 2004, that I bought this place, it was a stream. 2014, I came here. When it flooded, it doesn't even get to our knees levels. But now, when you go after the bridge, somebody is filling there, selling the land, the waterways, the dam itself, selling it to people.
Have you reported this person?
I haven't, because who am I going to talk to then? Because the person feels purpose.
This is the first time I use a problem. So it's a band to one amount time. Was sit down, my blocking so to be quiet, and the man as how we have a free. You won't be that. I think it's the best I do. So I been to an amount time on the best in the best in Nabasiano.
I'm in this area for 25 years. I never see this kind of disaster before. Because people are building, blocking the waterway. But nobody seems to want to do something to help us. Because some years back, we went to the assembles, and they came around to write waterway, remove it, or they will demolish it. Those people organize themselves and go to the assembles. And they pay money. They paid money to the assembles. Talking about evidence, they were here writing the... So we are just bringing to the Mr. President John Mahama to do something about it. Otherwise, we take the law into our hand and do what is the... We can do it. My brother, do you know something? Let me tell you something. I'm telling you that if they don't do anything about it, we the citizens, we will take the law into our hand and do the right thing.
What do you mean by taking the law? Are you going to destroy their buildings? Or?
No, we will demolish. What are they calling? We have to demonstrate. As a demonstration to let the whole gang know this what is happening here. If they refuse to come to our head, then it means we have to take the law into our hand.
Well, that's a very angry residents there in the Nanakrom area. Well, you heard one of them who was speaking to my colleague Christian Yale. They've seen someone building. He's filling the land. That's the waterway. He's filling the land to build. The residents there, at least one of them we just spoke to, has seen this illegality going on. Christian Yale asked him, have you reported this to the authorities? You haven't done that. Well, so it also raises questions about the responsibility of residents in these areas where people are building in waterways. Instead of keeping quiet about this, you've seen this, so do the needful, report it. These rains have come, flooding has occurred, and guess what? We're all affected because we're quiet about some of these things going on that we are seeing right before our eyes. Well, the Meteorological Agency, that's the Ghana Meteorological Agency, they've also given us a forecast of the rains in the coming days. It says it's going to be heavy. We'll get to them in a bit. But this is the mother of this 4-year-old girl who is missing as we speak as a result of the floods yesterday in the Nanakrom area. Christian Yale spoke to her as well. Take a look.
A mother's cry and heartbreak that words cannot describe.
The water level had risen, so I was moving upstairs to safety. I slept, and the water took my daughter away. Should have been 5 years old next month.
This next month, no one have 5 years.
It's a sad situation there. But we're keeping tabs on this one, and so if there are any updates on the whereabouts of this 4-year-old, we would update you on it here on Ghana Tonight. But let's go to the Ghana Meteorological Agency right now, because after this heavy rains yesterday, I wanted to find out how the rainfall pattern will be in the coming days. Frederick Kujo is a meteorologist with the Central Analysis and Forecast Office of the Ghana Meteorological Agency. He's joining us on Zoom right now. Frederick, good evening. Thank you for joining us here on Ghana Tonight.
Hello, good evening. Thank you for having me.
How's the forecast looking like for tonight and tomorrow morning?
Well, a very good evening to all cherished viewers. So from tonight into tomorrow morning, we're anticipating mostly partly cloudy weather across the entire country. And so we are not expecting any heavy rains or any rainfall at all across the entire country, right from tonight into tomorrow morning.
I see. But then we look at the rainfall pattern we saw yesterday, over 5 hours of rain. Are you able to tell us your own assessment of this period of the rain? How many millimeters of rain, and really what exactly may have also contributed to what we experienced over the 5 hours yesterday?
Yes, so the rains that we had over the past weekend was rains being induced by maritime effect. That is, had rainstorms coming from the ocean, and then they moved inland. And then usually when we have cases like that, these rains are able to stagnate along the coast and produce some amount of rain. But then when we look at the rains that we had on Sunday, they amounted to about 39.9 millimeters. For the start of this year, we've had a number of rains where we've recorded even higher values than what we had just over the past weekend. So on the 13th of March, actually, for this year, we recorded about 51.5 millimeters of rain just in Greater Accra region. But then there was no case of flooding within Greater Accra because prior to that day, we had less rainfall activity occurring. That is, we were transitioning from the dry season into the rainfall season. So even though we had a high amount, like 51.5 millimeters, but then it didn't result into any severe flooding. But then looking at the trend, right from March, within March, we had about 4 cases of rains. So aside the 51.5, we also recorded another value like 36.3 millimeters, which was on the 25th. And then also on the 24th, on the 26th, also we recorded 24.4 millimeters. But then the reason why we had the flooding issue for the past weekend is because we've had a number of rains right from March through to April and then May. So right on Saturday, there were some rains across Greater Accra region, which amounted to 7.2 millimeters. So this accumulation for the next day, which also gave us 39.9 millimeters, made the ground fairly saturated. So the downpour we had on Sunday also helped in the flooding situation that we saw in most people.
I see. So for those who are watching us right now, what should be the precautionary measure, especially for those who are living in these flood-prone areas? Unfortunately, we have a little connection problem. To Frederick, we'll try to rectify that connection, but here's what we do know. I mean, every year, these are the causes of flooding in this country. I'm going to put that on the screen right now. Poor drainage system, we don't know it. We know indiscriminate waste disposal. That's been one of the issues identified. We also do know that building in waterways has always been identified as one of the, causes. Poor urban planning, silting and choking of drains. We see it there. Improper enforcement of laws on building construction and sanitation. So we've seen this over time. And these reasons or the causes have on a perennial basis been pointed at. Fundamental question is, what has been done to address it? To address these causes which we know has been documented over time, so that at least we reduce the incidence of flooding in this country. And Frederick, before I let you go, you indicated that this rains we experienced yesterday, just 39, almost 40 millimeters in terms of volume, and we've had 51.5 millimeters of rain in March. It didn't cause this flooding. So what should be the way forward? What should be the precautionary measure that persons living in flood-prone areas should take, and then also policy, in terms of policy direction for government? Hello, Fred? We're losing connection to Fred.
Yes, so we are gradually, yes, hello.
I can hear you.
Yes, so right from this month of May into June, we are gradually entering into the peak of the rainfall season. So it means that we'll be getting frequent rains within Greater Accra region. And for this season, our seasonal forecast predicted that to be having above normal rainfall amounts, especially for the month of March, April, and then May. And we're looking at values like 262 to 430 millimeters of rain for the month of March and then to May. And then April, May, June also, we're anticipating a sum of 405 to 671 millimeters of rain. So looking at these values, comparing to our long-term mean rainfall values that we've had for the past 30 years, we're anticipating more rains right for the eastern coast. So yes, we advise that even as we are gradually entering into the peak of the rainfall season, places that are very prone to floods will start taking precautionary measures, especially with the silting of gutters, and then also areas where we have structures in waterways by the authorities. I hope that in the coming days they will help in demolishing all those structures, because we're expecting more rains, especially in Greater Accra region.
Frederick Kojo, appreciate you. Thank you for this. And you even telling us that we are now in the peak of the rainy season is even more scarier than even getting to know what has happened. Because if the rains we experienced yesterday is not the peak of it, then I can imagine the millimeters of rain we'll be experiencing when we get into the peak. And you say the peak is when? Which period?
We are looking into June, the month of June.
June. Just some few days away from today. Thank you, Frederick Kojo. Appreciate you for this. Frederick Kojo is with the Ghana Meteorological Agency, giving us details of their forecast and recommendations of what to do going forward. And as I indicated, this has become a yearly affair. We talk about it every year. I was having a conversation with my producer, Dennis Paberi Wadam, that if we go back, some of the headlines we don't have to even change. We can just lift the story and change the date. And it's just going to reflect what's happened the last few hours gone by. Because flooding, take a look at this. And this is a newspaper article. Let's put it on the screen right now. This is a daily graphic that was published specifically on the 18th of April, 1960. Okay? This is the daily graphic of 18th April, 1960. This is it. So when the rains came to Accra, that's what's one of the headline stories of that day, that day's publication. April 18, 1960. You see it at the top there. When the rains came to Accra. And guess what? From 1960 to today, 2025. Yesterday was on the 18th of May. From 18th April 1960 to 18th of May 2025. Yesterday, we're still talking about rains coming to Accra and causing flooding. You see the people there? The parts of Accra were flooded. This same area, and I can tell you the areas, and you can predict it, and you're not going to be wrong. The picture you are seeing beneath this headline of when the rains came to Accra is Kwame Nkrumah Circle. Kwame Nkrumah Circle. This is the Kwame Nkrumah interchange as we have it now. You know why? That Odo, the Odo River, as we have it. This same Odo project, we've had it captured in a number of budgetary allocations and World Bank funded programs or projects to deal with the flooding as a result of Odo. From 1960, Odo has been causing flooding to date. Guess what? This Garrett project, sometime in November 2019, the previous administration got some funding from the World Bank. This is a World Bank funded project. It started with $200 million. One of the major areas for the funding of this project was climate resilience. Let's put on the screen. Climate resilience and drainage and flooding mitigation measures. That's the first. Climate resilience, drainage and flood mitigation measures. This is the Garrett project, the Greater Accra Resilient and Integrated Development Project. Garrett. Now, the World Bank gave us this money. The Cabinet approved $200 million credit facility. The Parliament approved it as well. And then they decided on the specific areas that this $200 million was going to be used. And one of the major areas was flood mitigation. Fast forward into 2024, if you recall, the then Minister for Works and Housing, Kojo Nkrumah, indicated that the $200 million that was approved in 2019 had been fully accounted for. So Parliament should give an additional $150 million for this same Garrett project because there were areas that they hadn't finished. So they needed more money to deal with flooding and other related issues. So $150 million, the previous Parliament in 2014, May, approved it. And these were for the following: repair works on sections of the Odo Basin. This same Odo that has been causing flooding from 1960 in that daily graphic report to date. We're going to do repair works on sections of the Odo Basin. Construction of storm drains in Kaneshi and Nima, Paloma. Creation of water detention ponds. According to the publication then, last year, same time around May 2024, Parliament had to approve this money. And the President, last month, on the 3rd of April, went around inspecting these works that this money was approved for. And we have pictures of that. We're going to show you as we go on. But the fundamental question is, what has to be done differently going forward? And this is it. This is when the President visited to check just the works ongoing. This was on the 3rd of April, last month. Works so far on this Garrett project. And take a look at that. That's the President you have there. All this. And then, even before we get into the peak of the rainy season, we're having to deal with flooding at this magnitude. Think about it. Engineer Abdullah Mahama is joining us on Zoom right now. Engineer, good evening. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening, Alfred. How are you doing?
I'm well, thank you. Can you kindly put your video on for me? Put your video on for me while we establish a few things as well. And bear in mind that while we're at it, we talk about these specific projects and these areas you're seeing according to the document that guided the said request for more money. They were supposed to construct a waste transfer station and an engineered landfill site, among other interventions. Engineer Abdullah, I appreciate you. Now I can see you now. So it gets troubling that every year we keep talking about this because I come to you every year and then we have this conversation around this time. And even now, even before we get into the peak of the rainy season, we're seeing this flooding of this magnitude. How does that strike you?
Well, I'll say good evening to your cherished viewers. I'm not surprised again, but what I see is that we're going to have a lot of devastation for the years ahead of us. The depleting of the ozone layer or the climate change is actually distorting the pattern of our rains. And so if you listen to the Metro gentleman who was speaking, cumulatively we're going to have about 500 or 600 millimeters of water in June and July. That is quite scary. If you are just having about 39.9 millimeters of water just within the weekend, and this is the extent of devastation, then we should be prepared to record a lot of casualties, more casualties, unfortunately, because we are not sure that we can let everybody evacuate from the lower areas to the highlands because they don't have a place to stay. I'm not too sure that NADMO is more than equipped to be able to accommodate tens of thousands of people who find themselves in the lower areas of the lands. It's just because we have decided to disrespect nature. Our laws, as I told you earlier, have been structured such that if we follow the laws, at least about 80% of it, I'm sure that we're going to have a minimization the devastation that we are recording now. You made mention of the floods in 1960 or something like that. The floods would come. Every year we'll get the floods, we'll record the floods. It's about what measures you put in to minimize the extent of devastation. Like I said, 2022, China recorded the highest flood in the last 140 years. So it means that we cannot predict with certainty the level of precipitation that we'll be recording year-on-year basis, especially now that the sea is rising. It means that your retention or before the water from the Odo and other tributaries will enter into the sea, it will take a longer time. So it's only proper that once you know that you're going to have a longer time for the water to enter into the sea, it means that you have to create your retention ponds to be wider, be able to accommodate a sizable quantity of water to minimize the extent of devastation. Otherwise, we are going to receive this over and over. You see this book? I don't know whether you can see the reading. This is a new book that had been passed in 2022. That is the Building Regulation 2022 LI 2465, and it's so beautiful to go through this document. It captures every area that we need to consider in putting up a structure. But I think this book is not being used by the officialdom or the assemblies to the latter. People are either violating with impunity, and some of the assemblies, some are also overlooking their core mandates. Can tell you without any doubt that if we should go around like the NADMO want to do, if we should go around and inspect almost all buildings sitting in the waterway proper, I'm not too sure that we will receive about 10% of them fully having the document from the assembly. So it's either the people have become recalcitrant and they are putting up structures in the waterway. This morning, I got an interview to 3FM, and I made one categorical statement about what is happening around one of the areas that contributes significantly to the water or the flood water inundating Accra proper. That is Abokobo stretch. If you, like you said, if you go and play my videos for the past like 2015 till now, that's about 10 years. And I just try to add some bit of it because of further development, and because this law was not there in 2022, they have updated it. Now, if you look at Abokobi area, Ayimensa, Oyarifa, and Abokobi, in fact, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, we were just like kids. I'm told, per documents, that when it rains up there, it takes about 3 days before Greater Accra proper start to receive the flood waters. But now, within 30 minutes to 1 hour, the water flashes on the capital and then put people in all the discomfort. Now, I'm just trying to use this, and I want you to take this matter up for me. I was constructing a stadium at Abokobi for Accra Lions in 2019 to 2021. So I actually used the place for 2 years. Now, from the Abokobi police station towards the Oyarifa village, the Abokobi village, from the police station to the Abokobi village is about less than a kilometer. There is this stream that connects from the top of the Abokobi mountains, comes through the Abokobi to Ashoma. And this water connects to the Aboba top Heba. Around the top Heba, you have a very big storm drain that connects to Atomic. Then when you get to Atomic, it moves to Domipila 2 and then Christian Village. And then this water connects to Abofu and then finds its way to Alajo, then to the Odo. Now, this area I'm talking about, suddenly, my driver told me about a month ago with pictures. And it was so sad. The river has been occupied. Let me say, individuals, recalcitrant developers have taken about 60%, if not more, of the river, filled the whole river with boulders, and are putting up structures, warehouses, and then apartments. This is a water that when I was driving through those areas in 2021 to 2022, even with the Land Cruiser or a pickup, the water enters the car. Even with that buffer, now that they have reduced the buffer by over 60%, which law in Ghana allows an individual to go in and use boulders to reclaim a portion of a river which is supposed to be served as a buffer, natural buffer? Because if this is happening upstream, obviously, I will not be surprised that next year, the level of, with the same precipitation, the level of floods and the devastation around the Abofu towards Atomic, towards Domi, towards Accra proper would be enough. There is one problem that we all know, that naturally, Accra is a receptor of the hilly areas. Talk of Makati Hills, talk of Ukwasi, talk of Amasaman, talk of Brekuso, Abokobi, Oyarifa, and the likes. Also, all those water bodies are supposed to come to Accra. Now, this law, it gives one of the sections 56, and 56 plus C says that in the event, that is water land site requirement, in the event when an individual is supposed to construct a building, he cannot put up a structure in the area. When the land is liable to flooding, that individual has to provide adequate flood control measures.
And well,
so what is happening at Abokobi?
That's not been done, and Abokobi is increasingly becoming urbanized. Yes, now, and a lot of real estate companies building there in high volumes, and you're absolutely right about this. And it raises a lot more concern as well of what has to be done going forward. Engineer, your diagnosis is always expert and perfect. Thank you. Appreciate you for this. And this is one that this conversation, I can tell you, we're not going to end it because we're getting into the rainy season, the peak of the season in the coming days. So we're in this every step of the way with you. Thank you so much for joining us. Engineer Muhammad Abdullahi joining us with his thoughts on this. And a number of you all commenting on some of the areas he mentioned because you live there and you can corroborate what he's been talking about. Felicity Ahafianyo has been, she is the head of the Central Analysis and Forecasting Office at the Ghana Meteorological Agency, has been giving us some pointers of how the rainfall pattern is looking like and how the next few days will be. Take a look.
For the coming days, the rains have started and it will continue. And hopefully by the close of July into the early part of August, where the major season for the southern sector will end. So that means that between now and that time, we will be getting rainfall. And it's likely some areas may get as what we experienced yesterday, and some may get it lesser than what we had yesterday. Based on the chart that we received for Sunday. So you said that Sunday, some areas along the coastal strip, the values are great. So you could see that these values are great. It's almost like 2,000 joules, kilograms per joules over this area. So all these areas have an indication that there will be some competitive activities. Currently, we have my flood risk app that we are using. So where it helps you to indicate where the floods will be in Accra. So those that have it, if they were to use it yesterday, they may have an idea that where we are, the storm that is coming will result into flood, and they will advise themselves. So we are hoping that we'll be able to expand it across the country so that wherever we get the storm and is going to result into flood, those within that zone will be alerted, and then they can take the necessary actions that they're supposed to take.
Well, it's live here on Ghana Tonight, and we, together with you, our viewers, some of you have been sending us where you live, what you experience 24 hours ago around this same time, and how you lived through the night. And we compiled these videos of specific areas where flooding occurred yesterday as a result of the rains. Take a look. All these areas, parts of Adabraka, Graphic Road as well. A number of you sending us videos of what happened last night. But we'll stay the stream on this. Stay with us here on TV3 and across all media journal platforms. Coming up next here on Ghana Tonight, good news for commuters and also public transport users across the country. So public transport fares expected to go down in the few days ahead. But what's behind the decision? How long will the savings really last? And then also, when is it to take effect? How does the GPRTU intend to whip their members in line to reduce their transport fares by 15% from Saturday? That's the conversation we're having with Abbas Imoro. He is in charge of external relations for the GPRTU. Stay with us here on Ghana Tonight on this particular issue. As the Ghana Private Road Transport Union, they've announced this 15% reduction in transport fares. We'll be back shortly after this quick break. Stay with us. Now, this decision follows the recent sustained appreciation of the Ghana cedi against a major foreign currency. But beyond that, what exactly has led to this particular decision? Alhaji Abbas Ibrahim Moro is head of External Relations and Public Affairs of the Ghana Private Road Transport Union. He's joining us on Zoom right now. Alhaji, good evening. Thank you for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. Now, with this 15% reduction in transport fares, as we're hearing now, tell us a bit more of what were the specific considerations, what led to this decision today as communicated.
We met with the Transport Ministry today. After a marathon meeting, we finally decided to reduce transport fares by 15%, effective coming Saturday. So this is the current decision that we took.
I see. But what were the factors that you considered? I mean, we're pointing to the obvious, the cedi's appreciation, and then against the dollar and the trickle-down effect. But were there other issues or factors that you considered that led to this 15% reduction?
Oh, we look at the fuel, which has been reduced by 18, and if we have to go by the tradition at the Transport Ministry, we have to reduce by only 1/3 of the 18% reduction on fuel. Spare parts, they have promised to reduce. It hasn't been reduced as we speak today. Lubricants are still at where they are. Documentations like permits, taxes, and DVLA, what we've been paying, are still at where they are. But we consider as our contribution towards resetting of Ghana, and we come up with this initiative.
I see. So the dollar, I mean, the cedi's appreciation against the dollar is a major component in this decision to reduce transport fares, correct?
Yes, I'll say yes. Because we dwell only on the fuel reduction. Everybody knows we don't run transport with only fuel. So you can imagine the risk we've taken.
But how do you intend to enforce this so that on Saturday, all your members, GPRTU members, are whipped in line, complying with this 15% reduction, and passengers don't have to fight to have this reduction enforced, or we enjoying the reduction when we sit in the trotros and the taxis?
Brother, we are in Ghana, and the laws of the land must be abide by every citizen. Each time we increase lorry fares, everybody patronize the increment. So shall it be if there is a reduction. Everybody should be prepared to comply. But anybody who decide not to comply, the passengers should report to the nearest police. We are not saying they should be beaten. We are pleading. Nobody should be beaten, but it should be handed over to the nearest police. They come across with.
I see. You want the passengers, the people watching us right now, you're sitting any trotro or a taxi, which is part of the GPRTU. If they don't enforce a 15% reduction right now, you're sitting any trotro or a taxi, which is part of the GPRTU on Saturday, report them to the police, the drivers. You want them to do that?
It is the public who are being cheated. So we are just pleading they shouldn't beat anybody, but they should do the right thing by handing them over to the police. As we speak now, if we are through with this and tomorrow's clearance on the road, we will descend on some of our Casitrant members who charge 5 cedis for a genuine route, which is supposed to charge 5 cedis. Then in the evening at rush hours, they change the price to about 8 cedis or 10 cedis or 9 cedis. Who, after going through this, will descend on them to make sure we flush out the bad notes from the system.
Elijah Bazimaro, thank you very much for joining us. That's the notice to the commuters out there and the passengers. So if you, by Saturday, you're sitting in any trotro or taxi, which is a member of the GPRTU, and they don't effect this 15% reduction, said you are at liberty to report them to the police and not fight in there. That's Elijah Bazimaro. He is head of external relations and public affairs of the GPRTU. But before we go, coming up next, the former president and the late Flight Lieutenant Jerry John Rawlings has been honored posthumously by the government and people of Burkina Faso, naming a street after him. Well, his children have been speaking about this. But the family of the former president, Flight Lieutenant Jerry John Rawlings, the late, has expressed gratitude to the government and people of Burkina Faso. We're going to put those pictures on the screen right now, for the naming of a street after him, describing it as another honor, not only to the family, but to the people of Ghana. In a statement read on behalf of the family by Ms. Yasantua Ajiman Rawlings, Executive Director of the J.J. Rawlings Foundation, during the ceremony in Ouagadougou on Sunday, May 17, which we have pictures of, we're going to put on the screen right now. She indicated that this is a huge recognition of the legacy of a man who dedicated his life to social justice, a man who gave his life in service to the ordinary Ghanaian and the ordinary people. The naming of the avenue came a day after the grand inauguration of a mausoleum in Ouagadougou, housing the remains of Thomas Sankara and his 12 companions who died on October 15, 1987, of which J.J. Rawlings played a significant role in that particular project. He was the honorary chair of the Sankara Memorial Committee until his passing in 2020. And Mr. Santua Ajiman Rawlings, also a daughter of Flight Lieutenant Jerry John Rawlings, who was accompanied by her brother, Kimathi Ajiman Rawlings, also said the naming of the avenue marked a significant milestone as it serves as a reminder of the values both Rawlings and Sankara stood for. This is Kimathi Rawlings yesterday.
That should have happened at this magnitude a while ago. The Thomas Sankara's Foundation have done their best to keep his legend alive, and we've always been happy to support. President Flight Lieutenant Jerry John Rawlings was certainly, my father was certainly a huge supporter of the foundation, and he was a very close friend of Thomas Sankara. So it means a lot to be here, and it means a lot that the whole of Africa was more or less here to support this momentous occasion. United we will rise, and divided we will fall. That's the way I look at it. I think now more than ever we have the opportunity to come together as a continent. Many have come before who have tried to accomplish this, but I feel that the atmosphere is perfect for that kind of unity. We see what is happening in the West, and for once I think we're in a position to look inward at ourselves and see how we can progress as a continent, not just, divided whereby everybody is doing something in their own little corner. And together I think we could be a force for good in this world. So I think let's streamline things, let's work towards a better future, and I think our leaders are...
Kimathi Rawlings there, also sharing his thoughts as well on the honor done the former president and his father in Burkina Faso. And as a matter of fact, he's not alone in this. The Member of Parliament for the Klote Kole constituency, Dr. Zaneto Ajiman Rawlings, who is also the daughter of the late Jerry Rawlings shared her thoughts about this as well. And as I indicated to you, if you go on 3news.com, you've got pictures of this honor done the late president, Jerry Rawlings, in Burkina Faso, and then also the reactions from the delegation that accompanied the family there as well. And for more of it, you'll find on 3news.com. So make some time and visit 3news.com. I want to say thank you so much for staying with us here on Ghana Tonight. Join us same time tomorrow for another conversation. On behalf of the rest of the team, we do appreciate your company. My name is Alfred Ocansey. Have a good night.
Ghana Tonight is brought